We're back for another travel think tank here on The Hub, the place where the travel industry is all together under one roof. My name is Pat Miller. I'm the co-host of The Hub here, and my co-founder, Tom, will come on in just 1 minute and give us an update on what's going on in the community. Today is an interactive conversation, and it's our chance to continue the vision that Tom put forward, our path to prosperity. How are agents and suppliers working together to get us all on the right track? And I will contend to get us ready for the deluge that's coming our way as soon as all of this is over. So this is a workshop, which means we want to hear what you have to say. So jump into the chat and say, I've got something I'd like to share. We'll unmute you. We'll bring you on, because the more involved the conversation is, the louder, the more fun it is, the more we're going to get done. But let's start at the beginning with Tom Brousseau, my co-founder. Tom, you're really the author of The Path to Prosperity. How have things been going in the Hub in the past week?
Yes, well, I think, the Path to Prosperity really was, our rallying cry, as the Hub and as a group of agents and suppliers working together. That really is a great place to start. It's a common objective, a big mission that we all share. How do we get back to business, and how do we develop some specific ideas and tactics in order to do that? And, as we talked about in past sessions, there's no shortage of information. There's lots of webinars, lots of articles, lots of this and that. But what we really try to do in Think Tank, and what we've really done, I think, pretty successfully in the last 2 weeks, is bring forth some very specific ideas and tactics about the how-to part of it. Information is great. The knowledge is great, but unless you put it to work and execute it in some cohesive way, you're not going to be effective. So that's what Path of Prosperity is all about, and really gives us a great foundation for these think tank events. And everybody's done such a great job coming forward and contributing. So hopefully today we'll see some more of that, and come out with another 3 pages of notes about all the great things that people are talking about. And then just know that we are pulling that all together and beginning to formulate the Path to Prosperity plan, with very actionable things that we can help lead, that we can put our time, energy, and effort behind, that we might have the resources or the capabilities to execute that maybe no one else does. And I would think after today's call, we should have really a lot of great items, a lot of great action items that we can work with. So that's where we are. And in addition to that, we just keep on building it block by block like we always do. And I think lots of great things are happening, with more to come this week.
In just a minute, we're going to open the floor and ask you for what have you seen in the last week that caught your eye. That always tends to start the discussion. So think through the newsletters you're subscribed to, the conversations with your clients that have stuck out, the things that you've noticed that you want to bring up so everyone is aware of. But before we do that, I want to turn to Danielle Whitmore. What are you seeing inside the community? Because I've seen a lot of posts inside the Hub. It looks like things are heating up a little bit.
Yeah, yes, it's really good to see that a lot of agents and suppliers, people are turning to the Hub to ask questions, ask for feedback, and it's very important questions and feedback that agents need confirmation on to support their clients, specifically with the ever-changing rules and regulations of entry requirements in different destinations. So I've seen some really good questions and dialogue about that. So keeping up current information on that, and people sharing the responses. So it is great to see that there is dialogue happening, and people are starting to ask questions, and people are jumping in to answer them. So the interaction has been great this week.
So the questions are coming about openings, closings, restrictions, the tests. We were talking on Tuesday with Lucian about the Dominican Republic changes that happened with the COVID-19 testing. If someone didn't hear about that, can you recap what we were talking about? Because that's quite a change.
Yeah, that's a big change, and they're going to do a bigger announcement and rollout, I think, within the next couple of days. So they are changing their entry requirements to there will be no COVID test requirements upon entry. So up until now, or I think as of September 15th, there were some testing rules upon arrival, and now they are eliminating that. So, and in addition to that, something that they're doing that no other destination is doing is they are offering an insurance. So they're offering insurance. Right now it's valid through the end of the year, but I do see that probably being extended. So the insurance is very interesting, and it does support people if they get sick, helps with any medical costs or extended stays that they may need if they can't return back. So that's really great. And Lucian said on our call too that they should have more information, and they'll be releasing it formally, I think by the 14th. So we'll look for that. And we can always reference back to their resource center. They have a great resource center on their website.
And what a great piece of information if you've got a nervous Nelly client to add that insurance that the government is putting behind those trips to the Dominican Republic. What a great piece of information to give to someone that wants to go someplace, but they just need a little bit of a nudge. So thank you for sharing that. We definitely want to talk more with you about the destination communities, but we'll do that later on in the call. Let's recap where we were after the first and the second travel think tanks on the path to prosperity. So we kind of agreed about our scope. So the first thing we had to do was say, okay, the path to prosperity, what does that mean? Is this our path for the rest of our life? Or is this the next 2 weeks? We kind of agreed that the next 6 months are going to be pretty bumpy. And what can we do as a community and as agents and suppliers together to get us through the next 6 months? We also talked about some of these milestones or guideposts that our clients are going to be looking for. And we kind of all agreed the vaccine, once it's live, if it starts to get adopted, that will be something that the travelers will be keeping their eyes on. Plus the reduction, or at least the lower reliance on COVID-19 testing before you have to go in country if you're going someplace. Then we talked about flights. Then we talked about the opening of countries. So there's so much data that's being churned, which led to the next thing on the path to prosperity. How do we collect all this information, and how do we communicate all this information? So we're really coming back to that core function of the hub. What is going on, and how do we share it? And then we got back to one concept that Tom brought up, which I think is really good. So Tom, can you tell us about Agents Lead the Way? Because I really like this concept. And I think that is the jumping off point for today's conversation of how agents are leading the way to bring our clients back to traveling.
Sure. So, one of the things we talked about in the last couple of calls, and it came into a greater focus on the last call, is that agents, through our own travel, through our own understanding of the policies, through all the work that we do in preparation to do our jobs as professionals on a daily basis, we're really leading the way back for travel. And what I was hoping to accomplish with Agents Lead the Way is, to build a structure by which, we could really showcase that. We could really better showcase all the travel and trips and experiences that we're having. And Tom Carnes can chime in here too, because him and I have talked about this on our podcast. And that is that, agents and some clients are really the pioneers that are out there leading the way and kind of showing people that it's okay to travel, giving people permission, giving them some confidence. And as we all know and we've talked about, is that, consumer trust and confidence is the key. And so agents can lead the way back with that because we have the knowledge, we've been traveling, we're creating content with videos and photos and reviews and all that. And one of the things that I said, and what I'd like to build around is the campaign or the concept around, I said it in the last think tank, is that in the travel world, travel agents are the real influencers, right? Yeah, there's marketing, yeah, there's advertising, yes, there's professional influencers, quote unquote, who go to the destinations and take pretty pictures and post them on Instagram. They might not sell a thing. They might not know that much about travel, but they're considered influencers because they have a big social media following. But in my opinion, and what the messaging that I'm trying to build and how can we take that mantle and say, hey, you know what? Travel agents are the real influencers. Marketing and advertising is great. Professional, quote unquote, influencers, yeah, they might have their place, but when it comes right down to it, who's the one that knows the products, who knows the policies, who provides the service, and who makes the sales? It's us. And so I'm really trying to build off of that. So as we talk today, thoughts that come up on that would be great, because I think that really has a lot of impact. both for suppliers and for consumers, and better positions us as agents in the marketplace to say, hey, you know what, if you're looking for the real deal, you should be talking to a travel agent.
So, Nolan, if Tom is still with you there, Tom, what do you think about what Tom Brousseau was just sharing? And I understand you talked about this in the Two Toms Talk and Travel podcast endorsement.
Well,
You might want to download that.
Plug on that.
That's a little plug there. But what do you think about that, Tom, and about what Tom Brousseau just shared?
Well, thanks for Pat. Thanks for reviewing the question, because I've been spending the last 5 minutes staring at how big my nose is on the screen here, so I didn't hear what you guys were talking about. No, seriously, going back to it, as a travel agent, we need to kind of get to where we were at the end of 2019. I mean, our consumers, our customers, people who might never even use us, Facebook followers, Facebook trolls or whatever, they're envious of us. I mean, we caused, when we do the infamous, oh, here's my office for today, a shot of my toes right over the beach or over the water, people always respond and always have a smart remark for it. And what we've done as an industry, I think very, very well in the last 5 years, I would say, is we made being a travel agent cool again. When I started in the early 80s, late 70s, it was pretty cool in a hip industry. Then for some bizarre reason, people looked down upon it or, just thought we were res agents or whatever. But in the last 5 to 7 years, the industry's done a great job of making ourselves look very professional, very well traveled, very well, very, very educated. And I think we need to really kind of pick up the ball right where we left it off at the end of last year. And I think with this downtime, I know at least here at Lamakia Travel, and I'm hoping that the other agencies that are in with us as well have been able to, hone their social media skills, learn how to take better pictures. Hey, you know what? A picture always looks better when somebody's in it, because if you got to see one more empty beach or one more empty pool.
Yeah. Or another room category that a hotel is taking pictures of over and over and over again. We don't care about that.
Killing yourself trying to hide your suitcase so nobody sees it when you remember you forgot to take pictures of it. But the point is having people connect and identify with us. There's nothing better, like I said, than having somebody reach out and say, God, your job sucks. Not to steal that from Hard Rock. I think they have a podcast named that or something like that. But it just opens up dialogue. It gets conversation going. And, at Lamakia Travel, Nolan has done a great job. We just kind of went through our database, and we have two separate databases. We have our, CRM database, and then we have this whole other world of Facebook people that I'm guessing 90% of our Facebook people are not in our database yet. But that social media, the pictures, the conversations, the things we're throwing out are really motivating people to respond. And they're like, hey, and when we looked at the data we did on a recent survey, the number of people in Facebook that, have never used us or used the travel
higher than just our regular database of email addresses that we get from bridal shows and all sorts of, other ways we get contact information.
And that's truly on our end, that's our incremental business.
And I guess that just shows that all travel agencies out there that you have, with just random people liking your pages, those followers are all dreamers. Don't even look at them as like someone you've connected with in the past. It's like a dreamer that just likes travel. Think of it like that and sell to them like that. I think that's really, really important. Or just don't sell to them. Actually just inspire them.
Play hard to get. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Play hard to get. It works. So obviously, if we can play hard to get, we've made being a travel agent very cool. So.
Yeah.
You mentioned Go ahead, Nolan.
So in regards of just reminding everybody once we come out of this pandemic that the world of travel, I mean, that's like the travel advisor's playground. It's nobody else's. It's not anybody. I mean, there's Condé Nast, there's Lonely Planet, all of them, and they do a really great job, and they do highlight a travel advisor, but they're not able to have a conversation with a traveler, and that's where it is our playground. And I think that's really important to
create
remind yourself of that. Yeah, moving forward.
I want to ask you guys and anyone on the call if they have something to weigh in on this, but something strikes me, a parallel, if you will. It seems as though, if I'm listening to Tom correctly and watching the industry, that agents were the thing. And now when you could start doing it yourself, is it possible that the meter is coming back to agents again? Similarly, how news collection and data distribution was a select few, and now everyone is a journalist. So people are starting to drift back to the major organizations. If someone's covering an event, you might not trust it as much as if the New York Times is covering an event because they're old media. I wonder if there's a parallel between everyone's a journalist, everyone's a travel advisor. No, these people are actually the experts and have authority. Does that ring true to you at all?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we go back, one of our best customers is a well-educated consumer. I don't know how many other people say that anymore. They like
Yeah.
to, be able to control the relationship and the sales thing. Our objective is to deal with people that are well-educated and that we can convince to see the world through our eyes. I mean, it's their trip, but see it through our eyes. I mean, see
Mhm.
what we're offering you. When everybody is a travel agent and everybody is a reporter nowadays, that's one of the first things in our sales pitch, especially if we're doing groups or whatnot. It's like, listen, you know what? You're going to talk to a lot of people that are going to tell you their opinion of the trip or their opinion of
Right.
this, but they don't go into the vacation like we do. That when we go into it, we're looking through our client's eyes. We are single-handedly looking to see who we sell this to, and we're not in it for our own enjoyment. Where your friends and your relation and people that are always smarter than the travel agent, they're going through it for their own personal experience. Where we're somewhat Switzerland, we're neutral. We're trying to go through
Yeah.
it so we know how to qualify it better.
Mhm.
So it breaking down, Pat, that barrier of everybody's a travel agent. We do a decent job at the beginning, but at a certain point, you know what? Screw it. You're smarter than me. And I've had no problem telling people you're much smarter than me.
Mhm.
Go ahead and do it on your own. And you know what's sad? They'll have an okay experience, but they won't have a great experience.
Yeah.
And they just don't know it.
My favorite question that people like in their like 20s or 30s, they'll ask all the time. They're like, well, what's the benefit of using a travel agent instead of like booking it online? And I'm like, all right. I'm like, normally I'd answer your question immediately, but I'm like, here's my question for you. What's the benefit of booking online? I'm like, I gotta know. I'm like, I don't mean to throw it back in your face, but like, does like a pretty girl walk out with a trophy case of like your vacation or whatever?
Because we got an office full of those and pretty
Right,
men. I want
right.
everybody
Yeah.
to know we are, it's all even across the board here.
But really, I mean, it's like, it's a very fair question to ask. I mean, everyone's on mute, but like, not if that's ever been a question. Like, whoa, what's the benefit of using a travel agent? Has that ever came up for any of you? Yeah, no? Okay, cool. Yeah, but seriously, why don't we ask that same question? I mean, I don't get what the benefit is of booking with Expedia.
I can do it in
It's-
my underwear in the middle of the night when I want to
Right.
go.
But then, like, beyond that, like, is that worth it? Your underwear in the middle of the night? Like, that's how I think of it.
Yeah, but I can hire a travel agent and do that in my underwear too. So that's not really a thing. The other relationship that comes to mind here is car sales. The education of the car consumer is so high that car dealers are now just in the relationship business, not necessarily the education business of trying to sell someone on one car over another. The car dealers that I've talked with, their consumers are coming in with price, details, performance information, and they're essentially negotiating a price and picking up the car, not learning about it the first time they're sitting down in it. I do want to get Lisa's opinion. Lisa dropped some comments into the chat. So Tom and Nolan, thanks for weighing in, and please come back in just a moment. Lisa, what are you thinking about this concept as far as the relationship between agents and their customers? Did anything spark some thoughts for you?
Oop, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom was talking about the agents of the 70s. I can remember my father-in-law calling every airline, staying on the phone for hours trying to get the best airfare. I think there's always going to be those people that are, just wanting to do it themselves. They like the idea of doing it themselves. They like the control of doing it themselves. I think that to some degree, yes, people are going to feel more comfortable in the coming months and hopefully years of working with a travel agent. My fear is that it's going to go back to the way it was, and that folks are going to go out there on the websites. I think we have to take advantage of every moment we can of grasping those clients and trying to do something with them. But I won't be fooled into thinking that they're all going to come back to us, unfortunately.
I think we might have a window where we know more than they do, or might have
Mhm.
more up-to-date information than they do. I mean, something is, it looks attractive online and it's low price online, but it's low price online for a reason. And we may know why it's a low price online, or we
Right.
might know why that's not as good of a deal as someone might think.
Pat, you had mentioned earlier, and I don't mean to interrupt, but Pat, you had mentioned really earlier in that conversation about the car salesman, you used the word relationship. And I don't think anybody that's on this, that's on the hub right now is cranking out a ton of sales online. No, you know, is anybody booking online when, you know, in their underwear on your site at 1 a.m. like we're talking? No. Everybody, most everybody that's on this is relationship based.
Right.
And I mean, the expectation of our team and the sales staff there is, you know, it's their job to create a relationship. It's their job really to create a never ending relationship. But the expectation is that, you know what, you should never give somebody a reason to book online. They're going to do it. Don't get me wrong. But own the relationship. We contact, we reach out, we stay in touch with them. And, you know, it's impossible to do it to everybody. So let's not be stupid. You start with the person that's got the biggest budget. But it's a relationship business that we're in. And that's what differentiates us from everybody else.
right. Go ahead, Nolan.
Okay, so along with the relationship thing, so I was part of the like Future Leaders in Travel retreat. It was a virtual retreat last week, and we were talking about like just like what are like the things that absolutely just piss us off in the first place as travel agents. And it's like everybody's like 38 and younger, and like of course there's stuff that we're just like, oh man, why won't you do that? So the biggest one was price matching. And we were talking about like, how do you avoid this price match? Like there's like a feeling inside when you like quote somebody something and they're like, well, I found it less over here. Kind of like maybe they think that there's some type of like animosity. Maybe they think you're just jacking it up just because like you're trying to make a quick buck. And that's like an uneasy feeling. So then we're like, okay, well, we got to like get away from that. How do we get people to stop price matching or just realize that like, it's not worth it to check 80 different sites like after your travel agent just gave you a quote. And then Marco Forliti and I, we were talking, he works for ALG, Vacations, FunJet, all that. And we were talking about how if you book with Expedia, you have to pay in full pretty much all right away, like air, hotel, everything. So then we're talking about like the idea of if someone wants to price match something on Expedia, we can do that. But there's also, I mean, ways to go around it where you're like, okay, sounds good. You got to pay it all in full. I know you're departing August of 2021. And normally, like us travel agents have the relationship where we don't have to pay that in full right away. There's a deposit, there's a final payment, and there's like reasons for that because like we see how big a vacation investment is. And with like something like a price match, like sure, you found a lower price, absolutely. But we're gonna have to go and like, you're gonna have to pay it all in full right away. And then you'll start to like see the consumer think like, okay, well then it really isn't about the price. Like I wanna have the good experience of like a low deposit, final payment, deadline, all of that, and have that like flexibility from start to finish. So I just think that's really important with like working with suppliers too, and making sure you have that relationship as well. Because yeah, I mean, we could book Expedia Tap. Do we want to? No, like that's not fun. But like we can, and we, like the point is moving forward, like making sure you have the relationships that benefit the client, and like somehow articulating that without saying like, oh yeah, I'm a platinum agency with the 500 Club. That's a little bit too aggressive. Nobody knows what that means, and it doesn't really matter, especially to the client. So that was what I had.
And I would say nobody cares. Now
Right.
I want to hear from Susan and Molly and Sarah and the others on the call. Please jump into the chat. We'd love to bring you in. But as the civilian, I can play a role here.
Right.
I have an agent. And as a civilian, I assume it's more expensive to use an agent. But the benefit that you're talking about here, where you don't have to pay in full, that's a true benefit. Where if I don't have to drop $2,000 right now, I can drop 400 now and 600 later and 1,000 at the end. That makes my life a lot easier. That's a user benefit. So are we just doing a crappy job explaining the benefit of using an agent? Because I don't care about certifications. I don't care about how long you've been doing it. I care what's in it for me. And anyone that's worked with me as a coach would tell them what's in it for me is everything. So what can you get me that other people can't? And what are these little user benefits that all stack up to be an agent experience rather than buying and clicking on Expedia that I'm predisposed to think is less expensive, which I don't believe it is, but as a civilian, I'm assuming it is.
Right.
So how do we package this concept to our customers? These are the tangible benefits of what's in it for me.
So one of the things that I think is what you can take advantage of right now is the fact that with COVID, there's a lot of crap that is not staying current. So Molly's nodding, so I hope she's nodding at me. But so I just booked a girls' retreat getaway with for some friends, and they wanted to go to a spa, and the spa that was attached to the resort that we were going to said open for business. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think they are. So I call and I find out what their version of open for business is. And then I call the spa that's a 20-minute drive away that truly is a heck of a lot more open for business. And like, the price is going to be the same, you guys, but if you don't know the right questions to ask, then, so I actually think partly right now with all of the restrictions lifting and ebbing and flowing and all of that, value can be added because you know more.
Yeah, and our knowledge will be one of the big differences. Sarah Klein, you've got something you'd like to add? What are you thinking? I think I might have muted you. You unmuted you, and I muted you back over. There you go.
Okay. I think finally when we get to the other side of this, COVID could be the best thing that ever happened to the travel agent, because so many people who didn't know we existed now are going to know we existed. So between the press, whether it's good or bad about refunds and, how hotels and cruise ships are handling things, they've talked a lot about travel and travel agencies. And then people going forward will be a little skeptical to maybe search on their own because of what's open, what isn't open, the process. So when we come out on the other side, those of us who are left might really see a renaissance.
And let's tie that together. So what Tom and Nolan were talking about and what you're talking about, this information between a beautiful beach picture and all of the information we need to get there, that's the key of what we're talking about. But how do we express it in a way that our customers know that we have the information they don't? It's no longer, I know what resort you should go to. I know the environment of that resort. I know all of the ramifications around it that maybe TripAdvisor or Expedia is not going to tell you because it's not, they don't care. They just want to sell the trip. How do we build that trust and express it in a very clear way? Like in my head, I'm thinking, what's the sticker that goes on the door that says, we know and they don't? Like, how do we express this in a way to our customers? Because to Nolan and Tom's credit, it is about the relationship. So I feel like we've got a lot of leverage right now. How do we say that, Sarah?
I mean, for 25 years, I've been trying to figure out how to say that. That's the hard part. And it's things like pointing out someone who had a trip that canceled. Did you have to sit on hold for 4 hours, with an airline or hotelier? Did you have to do anything to get your refund other than bug us? So just finding ways to point that out, that's the hard part, is how you get that message. And I think our loyal clients get it, but to the millennials of the world, maybe not so much.
As a fellow millennial, we do not like anything aggressive. Any aggressive sales pitch.
You don't want to be sold to.
Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert. We don't like that. That's just way, way too much.
These guys don't even like going to like Macy's to get new shoes. If somebody were to sit down and put shoes on a millennial's foot, they'd lose their freaking mind.
No.
So service, we're used to is great, but how do we transcend it so you understand that?
And like, I think that's like a huge thing. Like I remember someone wanted to book for a wedding like a couple of weeks ago, and she wanted to price match everything. Everything's all fine. And like, you could tell she was like a lot younger and everything. And
Wait,
she, no. Okay. And then, and she said that she's like, I want to match this price. It was on Hard Rock's website. I'm like, sure, sounds good. And then rather than like, I saw what she wanted to match. It was basic economy. It was a non-refundable room, all that. And then like, instead of saying like, well, are you sure you want this? Like, I just said like, okay, so basic economy's cool. Like, I'm trusting that they know what they're doing. I'm like, basic economy's cool. And she's like, yeah, sounds good. And then she's like, yeah, we want seat selection. And I'm just like, oh, well, no, you can't get that. Are you sure you want basic economy? And she's like, well, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, do you mind if I tell you? Like, rather than being like, yeah, you're right. You really don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, or
Nolan invests the time to be able to say F you in a really
really nice long way. Yeah.
Like, oh, non-refundable hotel rooms are good. Like, even in November of this year, that's what you want. That's cool. Let's do that.
Oh,
like,
awesome.
Absolutely. And it's like, you respect them in a way that like basically makes them like say like, oh, well, wait, what would you recommend? You know what I mean? Because like, I mean, obviously we know what we're doing, you know?
Yeah,
We wouldn't
yeah.
be here
I
on-
have a house full of 3 of them, and you just have to talk in a different way.
Yeah.
So let them know they're right. and
Ask
they're gonna get what they
questions, but,
want.
like, not like invasive
No, the
ones.
answer
And
before
like
you do.
ask questions that you know will like come off as respect to them, whether or not it's like me saying like, you sure you want basic economy? Like that's something that I'm talking about.
And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that we know more than they do, but it's almost looking out for their experience. Is that what you're saying? Like, okay, so
Correct.
this is what you said. This is what that's like. Does that sound good to you? And let,
Right.
let them make the decision rather than, you don't want that. You want this, right?
And then like
Yeah.
say she actually did want basic economy. She's like, yep. And I said like, no seat selection. Yep. And then she like, I'm like, you could go over everything. And then they say, oh, I didn't want this. Like, why all these other people on the same flight have like, seat selection, they could change their flights, all that kind of stuff. Well, then it's like, well, I mean, I thought you said you wanted basic economy. We talked about that. And then that's where it's like the big FU, where it's like, we knew better at that point.
Yep. Susan Peavy, let's bring you in here. What are you thinking about this conversation and how we communicate value to the clients?
Well, I actually had a conversation with a client today who had me price out some rooms for Cancun for her brother. And I followed up and found out that he actually booked direct with the hotel. Finding out today that they need my help because when they were booking direct with the hotel, it ended up going to a third-party website where he booked air and hotel, non-refundable. And for some reason, there was a glitch in the system. So the pricing now is more than what he actually paid. So, they came back for help and I'm like, how did you do that? They're like, oh, direct. I go, it couldn't have been direct. There's no way they would have taken a full payment like that, and to find out that, how sometimes you search and, goes to one and it goes to another, then they think they're on the hotel direct. So they're now going to, I guess it's under investigation for 72 hours. And, was actually being kind of nasty, and is going to go to the press and go to this and go to that if the hotels don't correct it. But I came back and I said to her, so that's the value that we have. I would have known that right off the bat if he had come to said to me, hey, I got this. That deal's too good to be true. We travel a lot. All of us are in destination. We're checking out these hotels. We can tell people what hotels are good for maybe their fit. Everybody has a different pocketbook, so you can kind of look to see what's good for them. But, the web, it jumps. You don't know where you are. I mean, I've done it. I've gone on to look at price matching, and all of a sudden I'm on the site, and it's another travel agency's website that you thought you were on, maybe Unico or Hard Rock or something. So I can see it happening. I think just, our experience, being able to, just give people our ideas too of different resorts. I mean, I travel a lot like you guys do. And a lot of times I run into people at the grocery store like, oh my God, you're home. Where have you been? What have you been doing? And, they want to know, or maybe they had a bad experience in Dominican with a hotel, but now we could actually maybe turn it so they have a good experience at another hotel.
But we're digging now on a couple interesting things. Experience, what we know, where we've been, to recommend what they're going to enjoy. Like Nolan was saying, what's the experience that you want to have? We can make that happen for you. But the other thing that you're starting to talk about, and these two things will all collide if we can find a way to express it, is trust. The trust that we know how to book something. We know where to book it. We know how to get you the best price. We then can make payment options that are reasonable. Experience and trust combining each other. I don't get that from Kayak. I just get a website. And if there are changes, good luck, because you're hosed. So Danielle, you were talking about a way that maybe we could express it through the hub. What's on your mind with that?
Yeah, I'm listening to all of you, and it's really, really great feedback for me to help me to understand where you guys sit as travel agents with direct, daily contact and influencing your clients. So how do we take all of this, and especially as Tom said, you guys travel agents and travel counselor, you are the influencers of the industry. And I think there could be a lot of value in creating an influencer program within the hub. We know that there are a lot of large and medium-sized hotels, hotel chains, destinations that pay for influencer services at variety of levels, but I don't know of any notable, and maybe you guys do, if there's an agent, any agent type of programs other than FAMS, but a true influencer program that can be within the hub that would add value to suppliers that they would invest in. And then that could also lean into an influencer program of shared, like we're doing now, of shared experiences, shared talking points, and document these so that they can easily be conveyed to your clients. So there were, in just this 10 minutes, there were so many great talking points and recommendations that we could itemize and have at our fingertips to share. So I think if this program, a hub influencer, could be a really good program and add value to the overall hub.
The other thing that comes to mind here, and I'm sorry, I'm an amateur, I'm not a travel person, but as an outsider, the word agent doesn't instill a lot of trust for me. And I'm big into words and what people call themselves. And if I think about the stuff that Nolan is talking about and where we're going with this next generation of travelers, something like a guide or someone that can combine their experience and their trust to guarantee I'm having a great experience. I'm more interested in someone that's going to inspire me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know everyone's saying advisor in the chat. I know that's right, but literally people don't call them advisors. I'm a normal human. You're a travel agent to the mass. I know you call it advisor, but I'm saying other people call you other things than advisor. I'm saying, how are we going to the market with more of a guide and more of a Sherpa or whatever you want to say that might instill that inspiration piece where it's inspiration plus experience plus trust that's all being mixed up into, I can tell you where it's safe to go and where to experience.
I think Nolan and Tom mentioned it earlier with their visual experiences while they're in a destination and sharing the images and sharing visual content, testimonials, quick snippets of in-destination experiences can go a long way, and they can be reshared and reshared and reshared and reshared. Mm-hmm. So I think if you keep it to small, digestible, quick hits, there's more value than long video or webinar type things.
And inspiring them. I think that's really good. And Lisa's putting advisor in all caps. I'm sorry, Lisa, I'm not trying to be that guy. I appreciate you correcting me. Nolan, what are you thinking about where we're going here? We're trying to bring up some of these topics that we're drawing some campaigns or a way we can communicate it. Are we on the right track? Are we not on the right track? What do you think?
Yeah, so I follow like just a lot of like really good like travel influencers, like people that honestly, not people that the travel industry really knows about. Like one that was like really good that actually one of our ICs showed me, it's called the Bucket List Family. And it's like a family that sold everything they owned and they decided to travel for 5 years straight, like just around the world. And they're now millionaires just because of this. And that's like a true influencer. You know what I mean? Like there are millions of people that just want to travel or have a family that is like theirs and they just want to feel the same way. I think that one thing that like the travel industry does that's like a bit like archaic is because we have all these suppliers surrounded by us, and there's probably suppliers on this call right now, so plug your ears. But we just need to stop selling product and shoving it down the throats of like the social media. Like, I'm sorry, has anybody walked into any of your offices, or if you don't have an office, has anybody called you and said, "Hi, I'd like to book a Palace Resort"? Like nobody's done that. Never. When you're pushing so much product, it just comes across like inauthentic, in my opinion, or like almost like you're kind of bought. And I think that's really important if you want to like influence. Like you want it to be very authentic. Honestly, tag the destination and call it a day, like, or tag the resort and call it a day. But you don't need to, like, talk about the many Eldorados there are in Riviera Maya. They probably know that. They just want to be inspired enough just to contact you. That's it. And then from there, you take it home, like you sell them. You call it a day. Yeah. So that's, I think, really important when it comes to social media, or at least like making people realize it's your playground. Like, no, this is not the time to start like, oh, here are the million ways you could book like X tour operator. Like, this is why I use them. They don't care about that. They really just care about the destination, and that's it. And I think that's really, really important, because all of the influencers out there that, are like literally paid to stay at like a Four Seasons in Bora Bora, they're not talking about Four Seasons in Bora Bora the whole time. Because the person that's interested in it, they'll go and find out where they stayed and why they stayed there and what the benefits are of it. And that's the kind of people you want to attract.
And to point out what Omar posted here in the comments right here, build relationships with in-country guides, tour operators, fulfill inspiration. That's it, man.
Yeah.
Firsthand experience, a relationship, great. We all work through Globus. We work through Trafalgar. We have CIE. We got a lot of great tour operators that are out there. Hey, you know what? Grab a niche. Build a relationship. I know Lisa Pease has got a relationship with somebody in Morocco. I mean, those type of things. You don't need a relationship with everybody in every country in the world. You start with a few of them, and that creates the uniqueness with what Nolan's saying. And you add that layer on top of it, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of a kind. I've got a guy that does the thing. Let me hook you up with them. Like that adds a lot of value. And again, things you can't find on a website. Sarah Klein, you're in the chat. What do you think?
Yeah, I just had several brides back to back say to me, I've worked with some other agents, now I'm coming to you, which is something you kind of hate to hear as an agent. But the first thing out of all their mouths is every agent offered me the same resorts. Everyone offered me, she's like, 2 brides this week were like, why am I getting the same hotels over and over and over again? So I thought, this is something we need to change. Don't sell the product, let's sell the experience. And it's making me take more time to really get to know my brides and see, what they want, and not necessarily what the hotel, you're not going for the hotel's purpose. It's really about the bride.
Got something to add. Also, if you look at hotels, like Instagram pages, Facebook is a different thing, but Instagram specifically, it's not really a big advertisement for their hotels. It's literally just people traveling, and they just post that, and they want to make sure that like you feel like vicariously, like you need to be there, and that's it. Like if you go to any of their Instagram pages, it's just constant, what's it called? User-generated content and nothing else. And I think that's super important to recognize, because even the suppliers have dropped the whole like selling pitch. It's just about getting people stir crazy.
So in essence, one thing we could add to our path to prosperity is putting on our social media the journey and not the destination, and focusing on where to go and why to go, not necessarily this hotel or this brand. Because if I'm hearing you correctly, it's getting people lusty about going someplace. Like, I got to get out of here. I got to go someplace. And that looks like an amazing place to go, rather than here's X resort brand, stay at this hotel.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And I think that segues right into what Tom sent us earlier, that it's a domestic campaign by the U.S. Travel Association. That's exactly what they're doing. So I took the opportunity to watch some of those videos, and that's exactly what they're doing.
And what does that look like? Tell us what one of those videos looks like.
Well, there's only one, and it's a commercial that's going to be starting. And let me just pull it up. Maybe we can show it really quick. I have it right here. It's a campaign that's launching, I guess, this weekend in TV. It's a very interesting campaign that's focusing domestically. It looks like it has about 10 high level, like the Marriott, all the big hotel chains, the airlines, and let's see. Sorry, I should have had this up.
No, it's okay. All right, you look that up for a second.
Yeah,
Let's go to Lisa. Do you mind hopping on? Where do you think we're going with this, and what are you seeing? What are you thinking while we're having this conversation?
Yeah, I just sent you a note saying I misunderstood. I thought that you still thought that you're paying more to use a travel advisor. But you corrected me and said you used to think that.
I used to think that.
That's good. I just had a call yesterday from someone who said, where is it safe to travel to? And she was calling on behalf of her daughter. Where is it safe to travel to in December? And I thought it was for her. And I said, oh, let's get together. Let's talk about this. Let's figure it out. Where do you want to go? And she said, oh, no, this is for my daughter and they don't have a lot of money. I'm just getting some information for them. So as I talked a little further with her, I came to realize she thinks that I only sell luxury vacations, that I don't sell things that are tailored towards someone who doesn't want to spend an arm and a leg on a vacation. So I had to look inside myself and think, why are people getting that perception, or is it just her? So it isn't. I don't believe that you should pay more using an advisor. I think that there are fees that you might pay to get started using an advisor. And in the end, I don't think you end up paying more. But I do agree that we have to somehow change that perception, and I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Nah, it's a great conversation, and I appreciate you weighing in. Thank you for that. So let's transition slightly, but before we do that, Danielle, do you have what you were looking for? I
do. Yeah, if you want to watch the quick video, it's called Let's Go There is the name of this campaign. I can play it. Can I show my screen?
You should be able to.
So, okay. Can you?
Someone once said, life is what happens when you're busy making plans. But the truth is, in a life without plans, nothing really happens. So let's go there. Let's make some plans. Let's feel the feeling once again. The butterflies as you search and imagine that perfect getaway. Let's go there. Somewhere. Anywhere.
The sound is a little junky. We might have to put that link in the chat so someone can see the full thing, Danielle.
Let's go. Let's aim for that horizon.
Sorry, that didn't sound good.
Yeah, the sound didn't quite come through, but the video is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. So I thought the entire campaign was really nicely done. So when you all have a chance, take a look at that. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty widely published campaign in multimedias.
So Tom, what do you think of that? Welcome back to the call. What do you have on your mind about what we're talking about?
Well, I actually came across this campaign today on U.S. Travel Association's campaign, so I did post it up on the hub. And my first question for all the agents on the call or anybody is, how many of you know that this exists? Okay, so I didn't either. So I reached out to the VP of I can't remember her exact title, but industry and engagement or whatever it was. But my question for her was, what is the travel agent engagement plan for this, and how are you using agents to amplify and convert this campaign into sales? Because without that, as you know, this is my sticking point. Without that, it's a pretty video on social media, but how are agents getting involved? How are agents using it to engage with their customers and drive sales? So hopefully we'll hear back from her. I would love to hear what their plan is. There is a toolkit that we did post on the hub. There's a separate link to a kit that has banners and videos and things like that we can all use on our own. But my expectation would be is that something this big with all this involvement from all these major suppliers should have a travel agency execution arm to it. And we should find a way for it to benefit agents. And I didn't see that. I didn't see a call to action. And if one doesn't exist, we'll make it our own and we'll take advantage of it. They're creating tools for us, and we might as well use them. I don't know that there's any rules saying that we can't, but I will follow up with them just so you guys know, because something this valuable, that creates this campaign messaging for consumers that that can help us, should involve us, and we should be utilizing it and have a strategy around it, not just having it go out in a week and none of us even know that it even exists. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we could bring that. I'm glad we can bring that to you guys and that kind of share that. And we
So
will
look-
follow up to see how we can help.
And I already received 2 look like partners. So all of the partners who are involved are starting to send out their own communication. So I received one from Bonvoy already and one from Accor. Those are the 2 memberships I have. So I received one of each about this campaign using the hashtags and about the campaign already today. So they are pushing this out in the marketplace, all of the different participants.
Okay. Before we get to Lisa, Tom, you had one more thing?
Yeah, my one more thing is I have to apologize to all you guys because I have a commitment, so I have to jump off the call. But I wanted to say thanks very much for another great think tank. I will take all the notes and all the conversation from today and the last 2 and start to get it pulled into a reviewable format that you guys can all look at, that you can all see in the hub, that we can start to utilize in an actionable way. So I will see you all next week, and I will follow up. And thanks again to everyone.
That's great,
for
Tom.
being here.
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you for
much
coming on.
appreciated.
Lisa, before we get too far away from that video, you clicked on some of the links. Where did it go?
This afternoon, I clicked on them, and because I wondered the same thing, I didn't see any advisor influence on there. I didn't see anything because I was worried that this was connected to an agency, whether it was American Express or whoever. But I did notice that the links take the viewer directly to the airline and hotel websites. So just to book direct.
Mhm.
And I'm not familiar with US Travel Association. I've never heard of them.
STO,
Has anybody else heard of them?
US,
What
is
is?
it USPO?
No, it's not. No, let me look again and see. The U.S. Travel Coalition.
Coalition.
So they're a private. They must be a private sector
Mm-hmm.
environment. That U.S. Travel, the org, ustravel.org, the U.S. Travel Coalition.
Well, we got to do some sleuthing on that, Danielle, and
Yeah.
find out what's going on there.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you for checking in on that. I appreciate it. We are up against time, but we had another great travel think tank here where we really explored a bunch of different stuff, really digging in, it seems like, on the travel advisor difference and how do we explain that. Also, the relationships with our customers. How do we keep them dreaming? How do we keep them engaged? How do we get them thinking about getting that trip on the books and thinking about what's next for them in their travel journey? Before we close Think Tank today with as many great pieces of input as we had, any final thoughts or comments that you want to add? Just jump into the chat or unmute your microphone and share, because we covered a lot of ground today and I don't want to lose any final thoughts that you might have. Hearing none, we'll wrap up. Danielle, give us a quick update on the destination communities that we're working on. Anything new there?
Actually, I just got an update while we were on the call. James Taylor wasn't able to join us, but he did say that the Costa Rican government released 9 more states that are now open for U.S. travelers.
Great. That's great. We'll get that up inside the Costa Rican destination community that's live on the hub. Anything else cooking with the communities we should be aware of?
I've started working on the Dominican Republic and Puerto Vallarta with those stakeholders.
Nice. That's
Yep.
awesome. High five. That's a Zoom high five. So a great conversation today. Thank you everyone for coming and contributing to the Travel Think Tank. Thanks to Tom, of course, and the Hub Stars that are on the call. We will be back with our next Travel Think Tank. It's coming up on Tuesday. This coming Tuesday at 2:30 is the new time for the Travel Think Tank. So we'll get those links up inside the hub so you know what's what. But we'll have another great discussion like this on Tuesday. So let what we talked about today kind of roll around in your head. Continue the conversation on the posts inside the community once we get it up there. And understand that where we're coming from is connecting agents and suppliers on the path to prosperity so we can all be in a better place as we move down the road. So with that, I'm Pat Miller, your co-host. Thanks for joining the Travel Think Tank today. We'll see you next time on the Hub.